Yeah, that's us. I'm James.
I'm Andy.
Forgot for a moment there. Lost myself a little bit. And all the carnage.
Has there been a lot of carnage?
There hasn't been a lot of carnage. It's been a lot of bookkeeping.
It has, and because we say that a lot, and we're gonna stop talking about bookkeeper, we're gonna be doing some segments, trying them out.
We are. We're going to be doing something a little bit different today.
Yeah.
A bit of a fresh perspective on things, because we found that when we don't have anything to talk about, we'll talk about things completely unrelated. So we thought we'd treat you today. That's right, a little special, a little Brucey bonus. We're going to talk about some things related to the game, but not specifically the game, because we have a lot of admin stuff. It's all spreadsheets today. It's all assigning resources to different places. You know the score. So
Progress is happening, but it's just not exciting to talk about.
Exactly, because the progress is just how many pieces of data we filled in on a spreadsheet. We're going to mix it up a little bit. Now, for the uninitiated, and I don't think there's many of you, you know the score. What we're doing here is playing SPI's The Campaign for North Africa, start to finish. We are currently in the throes of a test playthrough of a little scenario, the Italian offensive. But today we're going to be talking a little bit about some other aspects of the game, the historical background of the conflict itself, and a few other little bits and pieces here and there.
Yeah.
Decided to mix it up because we've had some feedback. Actually, we've put the feelers out there. We've asked those people listening, and that's you, what it is that you like, what it is you don't like, and what it is we could do that little bit better. And everybody turned around and said, "There's nothing you can do better. Everything is perfect." But we looked inwards. And a little bit outwards towards some of... We read between the lines, because when everyone was saying everything is perfect, what we were hearing is everything is perfect, but you should talk a little bit more about the game, because we've been listening to your podcast and you don't talk exclusively about the game. A lot of it is unrelated nonsense. That's what I got from the subtext. What did you get from the subtext, Andy?
I mean, it was pretty much that.
Yeah.
So it's more just staying focused, I think. So yeah, should we get into the first piece of correspondence?
So when it comes to when it comes to this feedback, we do appreciate the feedback. It's been fantastic. It's been a good opportunity to hear what you like and what you don't like, and we're very gracious that you've decided to grace us with such feedback. So we're gonna give back to the people. We've decided we've taken enough. We've taken the board game from a board game collector, I imagine. We've taken your precious time listening to this. And what we're going to do is give back, because... Oh, do you hear that? That sound of a telegram coming through, Andy? Do you hear it?
Oh, I like the sound effect.
Yeah. I'm sure it's been put in post, and I'm sure it sounds really good. Or I've not found anything, and people are just reaffirming that we are developing some sort of mania while playing this. But it would seem we've actually had a real-life email from a real-life listener.
Very exciting.
Some real correspondence. And we're going to address that in our very first mail call. And that's how we're going to open up today. Today's all business. It's all good stuff. It's all important talk. And we're going to open up with our very first piece of correspondence. And it's sent in from our listener, Alexander. So the email goes, "Hi, my name is Alexander. For those confused, I'm still James. This is me. From now on, until I let you know, this is me reading an email. This isn't my stream of consciousness."
You're going to forget to let them know, and they're going to think the email's 40 minutes.
They're going to think the email's 40 minutes, and that it's going to include common ground and a lot of nonsense about our real lives. This man's clairvoyant. So, back to it. "Hi, my name is Alexander, and I saw your post on Reddit 2 days ago. If anyone else hasn't, then by all means check that out. I listened to the 13 episodes, and I must admit I had a really good time." Well, thank you, so did we. No, not all the listeners are bots, and hopefully that Reddit post boosted your audience by like 5, which means you now have 5 people listening to this podcast, and knowing if you guys finish...
Real.
Yeah, one of them is definitely real. And knowing if you guys finish this game or not, we'll come for you if you don't. We were hoping that is the case, but now that we've had a measured threat, it makes us feel that little bit more motivated to stay on track. So thank you.
The meal as a carrot, the revenge of the listeners as a stick.
Yeah, now we've got both carrot and stick, so thank you for sending in your carrot. But that's not where it ends, by the way. And thank you for the stick. I'm personally a wargame enthusiast, although not a hardcore one. Like, not to the point where I would even dare to play this game. Just to reiterate, Alexander, we're also not hardcore wargamers. We are people with spare time and a microphone.
Decision making.
That's all we've got. But I still enjoy the podcast. Well, that's good. Thank you. I think it was in episode 12 where you guys talk quite a lot about the game compared to the other episodes, and it was good. Took us long enough. Of course, I like the other episodes too, because if I was only here for the game, I would have dropped at the second episode. And there really is the crux, isn't it, Andy?
That is incredibly fair.
We have
correct.
Yeah, we were sort of waiting for it, but now we've had that validated. It's time to act on it. He continues. So I do have a question about the game. At what level of detail does the game represent vehicles, and especially tanks? Is each individual tank a little line on the spreadsheet, or is it more broad, and each unit just has a number that represents them? Well, we'll definitely get into that. That is it's an actual question, and it's one that allows us to get to the rules, so we'll come back to that. That's great. Because if the game is so detailed, I would like to know if there is a precise list of vehicles for each unit. For example, the Tiger 1 tanks are quite special. Same goes for the 8 Churchill tanks that the British had at El Alamein. Although this possibly is a question for a few years from now. Well, we've got some answers for you. And also, a few very special vehicles, the Rommel Funnies, are prototypes that have been sent to the Africa Corps during the war. They didn't have any impact on the actual campaign, but since the game is so detailed, maybe they're included in some sort of way. And what you've got to bear in mind, Alexander, is that this is also an alternative history where we are the generals, so they may well have an impact. Second question, also more about the tanks and maybe other vehicles, but tanks seem to be the most plausible to have dedicated rules and details added to them. Can you do field modifications, or does the repair take into account which part is needed, or stuff like that? I mean, that would be a horrendous level of detail to play, and considering the time it would require. But the game does not seem to care about things such as having a social life and mental sanity, so maybe the designers went that far. Oh, yes, yeah. They did. Yes, they did. Another point we will come back to, I assure you of that.
You pegged them perfectly.
And he goes on, I thought a lot about the dead camels. Me too, man, me too. For 2 days, my brain has been filled with dead camels. See a doctor. And Huel. How hard it must be to live in the UK nowadays, considering people are ready to duel for close to a decade for a meal. A little bit of political commentary. We promised we'd stay away from that, Alexander. You've kind of broken the rule, but all right, fair enough. As someone sending in the information, this isn't from my perspective. This is from an email. I'm allowed to be political via an email. I will live vicariously through you.
Fast forward to 10 years when we're fighting through the ruins of cities, and the meal's genuinely important.
The meals are... I mean, we're doing this for a meal.
For like a life.
Yeah, we're doing this for a meal now.
I know.
So there we go. So I thought about different things. Camels have a lot of fat. So maybe you could take the dead camel somewhere and burn them to create smoke to trick the enemy. Or maybe you could bombard the Allied forces with dead camels you set on fire while on the plane. I'm sure the rules don't take that into account. The level of detail is at such a low level that the game is literally unplayable. Well, now you're just being facetious. That is, to be fair, the game is to an extent unplayable, but that's mostly because of the opposite. However, I do think it is the case the rules don't take that into account because everything else is so well thought out that we may well have just missed that. That might be in there. We're yet to find out.
I do like the idea of using the dead camels for tricks.
Setting fire to them, it feels like it's in bad taste, especially when we've described this as a war without hate.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you can really call that hate. That sounds more like a tactical decision.
I also think when we finish this and we're the world's foremost expert on the games,
yeah,
we should do a patch for what the camel rules end up being.
I agree.
So
we have the authority.
This is the leader for how the camel rules will be implemented.
So far, so good. If anyone's got an alternative, by all means put it through. But right now, you're the front runner, Alexander. I believe that this is maybe what the camels are used for.
I mean, that's very demoralising to just have a burning camel land in your foxhole.
I'd be heartbroken.
I would leave.
I'd be going over the trench. Well, a bit more World War I, but maybe I shouldn't keep going on the camel thing. Alexander continues. I wouldn't want to be arrested because I said the Italians could have won the war by bombarding the Allies with burning camels. Well, you have. It's what you've said. And we do have... Is that his IP address here? Is that... Let me just send it over to the Italian Bureau of Investigations, the IBI. No, that's something we talk about a lot more than you. They'll focus on us, don't worry. They'll go for the ringleaders. So, continues. I'm not qualified to criticize whatever you guys do. I'm only sharing ideas I have. You absolutely are qualified. Everyone is qualified. If you're listening to this, you're qualified to criticize or give feedback. So don't you worry about that. We're not qualified to talk about this. We just have microphones.
Yeah.
Maybe you could set some sort of diagram on your website with the different unit levels, like divisions, then brigade, then battalion, etc. So you wouldn't have to say exactly what it is all the time, and you could just go on talking about the units. Agreed.
Fantastic idea, yeah.
And that is something we've waxed about for a while, and the fact that someone has put it in writing and sent it over, we agree, and we do think that is something we'll be doing sometime in the future. We need to make sure we definitely understand it correctly, because at the moment, we're confident that we do. We'll make double sure, we'll triple check, and when we've quadruple confirmed, we'll stick something out there. We will do that for everyone listening. Yeah. So, brilliant suggestion. Thank you for that. And also, you could take a picture of the entire board at the start or end of each turn, or maybe more than one picture. The ceiling isn't far enough so you can get a top-down view of the entire map. No, you're right. So at the end, you'll be able to make a stop-motion version of the game. I think a time lapse would actually be very cool to see. And also, you could post each picture turn on the website so people have an idea about how the game is going. Agreed, we will be doing that. I don't think the picture itself will do justice as to how the game is going, but hopefully the episodes, additional information will do. But we will be putting out a picture every operational stage, or 5 pictures rather, basically, one for each map.
Anytime there's a bit in the game where you move things around the map,
yes,
we'll do all the moving and take a picture, put it up, so you'll be able to see from a high level how things are going. Absolutely.
So soon we should have a picture up of all of the current maps for the very start of the game. So that's everything that's out there when this is again the practice run. Everything that's out there as the practice run starts, you can see how the game looks. Any questions you've got about how the units break down, by all means ask. The rules are online. If you want to double check anything there, you're more than welcome to fire off a question about that. So, goes on to finally say, anyway, this is quite a long email. Quite all right. First one. This is your airtime, my friend. Very welcome to it. Please keep going, guys. What you're doing is great and brave. You're kind of like heroes, really, at least for the Allies. Yeah, that's fair. I don't think I'm allowed to call myself a hero, so I'll take that, but I know that deep down you mean that I am too. You just can't put that in writing. Again, I don't want the police at my doorstep. Yep. No, and although I don't get all the jokes, because I didn't reach my mid-40s identity crisis, get it? 1940s? Yep. No, it's good comedy. We also don't tell any jokes on here. This is all deadpan. Nervous laugh. Everything is deadpan. It's not a joke what we're doing by playing such a game. But I will certainly do that when the time comes. So we're not in the same decade of joke material, but I still have a great time listening to your podcast. Love from France, or rather hope. I think you need more hope than love right now.
I think he's nailed that.
You're spot on with that, Alexander. And thank you very much for our first email. It provides some levity to the situation. That's good because we are just so deadpan with all this so far that a bit of levity was much needed. And as well as that, some actual questions, which mean we have not just an excuse, but a real demand to get into some of the rules here. So that is fantastic. So thank you for that email. And I think now we'll go back. We'll touch on some of these questions.
Yeah, so shall we first one, what level of detail does the game represent vehicles and especially tanks?
Absolutely. Yeah. So do you want to pick up with that then, Andy?
The game uses something called tow points. I don't think we've found what the acronym's actually for in the rules anywhere.
Well, as you might recall, I did find it. I can't find it again. It does say at some point in the rules so tow is TOE, it's always capitalized. It does stand for something. And it mentions it, I think, once in a throwaway line in the rules. And it says something along the lines of, this is what it stands for, but don't worry about that. So it is out there, and we will trawl through at some point and find that. So I promise that is out there. We'll get back to you with a definition at some point.
Yeah, but basically the strength of each unit is toe points, and a toe point of infantry is meant to be the equivalent of approximately 100 men.
Yes.
A toe point of armoured vehicles, including tanks, is 5 to 8. And then for guns like artillery and stuff like that, it's 4 to 8. So it abstracts the unit numbers down to a toe point, which is basically like the smallest operational unit of whatever that is that can like affect things.
Exactly, yes. Yeah, that's a good way to put it, yeah. So the toe point is, it's your smallest form of functional unit. You can't have sort of 12 guys be effective in this scenario. So when you're playing the game, your toe point is, well, yeah, as you put it, those sort of quantities of units. And if they ever fall below that, it's sort of abstracted, so you never really see what would happen beyond that. If they get smaller, at that point, it's just quashed and the group is non-functional.
Yeah.
So that means...
dead or taken prisoner.
Exactly, yeah. So it breaks apart into prisoners, into broken down vehicles. So if you've got, say, like 3 tanks or 3 armoured vehicles, it doesn't really allow you to have them represented on the game in any way, shape or form. But it does give you specific information about what that toe point looks like.
Yeah.
So a toe point of panzer tanks, for example, we don't have any panzer tanks on the board, and we won't for years, the way this is going. But a toe point of panzers is going to be a lot more effective than, say, a toe point of 100 infantrymen when it comes to fighting other tanks, for example. Because each toe point, depending on what it's a toe point of, has different values for anti-armor, anti-air, barrage. So these toe points, a toe point is, the sort of the meat of, you have a unit of, you have a toe point of.
And when you're doing like combat, you'll often times the toe points by like the attack ratings.
Yes.
And like typically a lot of my armored stuff I've noticed have up to 10 toe points. So I guess that'll be 50 to 80 tanks.
Yeah.
With whatever that unit is.
Exactly. So you've got all of these breakdowns of toe points. A toe point being the smallest significant element of a group, and then those groups have their own characteristics. So because of that, yes, there is quite a granular breakdown of the types of vehicles, because you've got your toe points, but you've got your toe points of very specific types of vehicles. I'm just going to grab my sheets here. So if I was to flip open the access book and I was to look at some of the gun characteristics. So there's a chart here. I'll show you in the microphone if you can see that. There you go. Yeah, not a video podcast, so that's kind of useless. So we have the charts here of, I mean, at a glance, it's sort of 20 to 30 different types of tanks and guns. So you've got Panzer, this is just for Germans. So you've got Panzer 1, Panzer 2, Panzer 3E, Panzer 3H, Panzer 3J. It goes on. And each of them have a different CPA, your capability point allowance. That determines how much they can move. It determines other things like attack, retreat.
Basically, if a unit's doing anything, it's spending CPA.
Exactly, CPA
and that's
is
for
your...
everything, infantry, trucks. It's like a base system they all use.
Yes, everything that can move or use something, it expands CPA. And it replenishes each operation stage. That's sort of your tank that you can deplete during that, and it replenishes. So the Panzer 1, Panzer 2, they've all got different ratings for anti-armor, barrage, anti-armor, vulnerability, armor protection, offensive and defensive close assault, and then also their fuel rating. So there's a lot of granular detail in the vehicles. So each of them, in a sense, is a line on a spreadsheet, which consists of a toe point, and then they all have those characteristics, a lot of which are static. Those ones that I've just rattled off there, they won't change. They will be the same. But yeah, that's a bit of a breakdown as to how those vehicles work. Anything you want to add about the toe points or anything like that?
No, I think that's it. It's just, not to think of things as like individual
tanks.
Everything's like a group.
Everything's grouped up and abstracted.
The scale of this.
Yeah, it
I
wouldn't.
think tracking individual tanks is beyond even the scope of this game in like silly craziness.
I think only because they ran out of budget or time.
I think if they'd had computers back then,
They would have done
they
that.
would have done it. It's thankfully there's a technological limitation on how much maths they were willing to do.
The only thing that stopped them was how much computing technology they had. So another point that you've asked there, sort of tied into the same question, is the Tiger 1 tanks are quite special, and same goes for the Churchill tanks. So the Tiger 1 tanks, I've had a look through, and the Tiger 1 tanks aren't featured in this. I did a little skip forward for the German forces, and I don't seem to get them. And it seems to be the case that they come into action in Tunisia, which seems to be at the back end of the North African
I
campaign.
think after the Allies sort of mop up like the Libya region, they move into Tunisia. So it's part of the Africa campaign, but it's not part of this game.
Exactly. So it doesn't play into here, and there's so much stuff that is pulled in through such small level of detail. I'm surprised they weren't even put in there as a sort of little post-credit scene, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. The last turn, here's one of the Tigers.
Yeah, you won't get to use them, but we've included them anyway, which they've done with a couple of planes and stuff, so yeah, wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, so they haven't got those in, but very valid question. As was the question about the Churchill tanks, and you have a bit of an answer about that.
Yeah, I've because there's 8 of them, it's 1 tow point.
Exactly.
Yeah, so on turn 90, and only turn 90,
that's right, yeah.
I can spend replacement points, which are like an abstract point that can be applied to infantry armor. I can spend that to get 1 tow point of the Churchill tanks. Only on turn 90, so...
A long way away.
If I miss it on turn 90, I'm not getting them.
And that is roughly 90 months into the game.
Yeah.
So that's a long way away, and he gets one shot at bringing those Churchills in. So that is around the Battle of El Alamein, from what we can decipher from what the game translates into real time. I'm going to take a guess
based on just movement that it's be like 92, 93, if they sort of arrive and head straight to El Alamein.
Yeah, and there may well not be a Battle of El Alamein involved in all of this.
I am very interested to see if just the like geography and the units we have mean we end up sort of having similar.
I don't think it will.
Choke points and hold points, or whether it becomes the battle of like Sidi Buyani, where like 100,000 people die and people just walk through El Alamein.
No, what's going to happen is you're going to get me and essentially spawn kill me, I think, at Marble Arch is what's going to happen. I'm going to just get swept over at turn like 12, and that'll be me done, is the way I see this going. But bit of information there about your tanks. And the second question, which he said was also about the tanks, but also applies to some other vehicles.
Oh,
which is very
just
true.
Before that, the Rommel funnies.
Yes.
They don't seem to be in the game.
No, they were.
Yes.
I do have a little bit of clarity on the Rommel funnies. We didn't know what these were, by the way, and when we looked into them, it wasn't immediately apparent. But the Rommel funnies, from what we've been able to determine, they're essentially these sort of Frankenstein creations that Rommel had put together. I don't think he personally built them. Don't think he's got the acumen to put them together by hand.
Looking at some of the pictures, it does kind of have the like vibe of put that gun on that tank.
But sir, we don't have the means to do that.
I said put the gun on the tank, and then he walks away and comes back later with her.
Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted.
Ridiculous thing.
So it looks like somebody essentially said, I want to put an artillery gun onto some tracks. And somebody said, is that a good idea, sir? And he went, well, sorry, what's my name? Am I Rommel? All right, yeah, that's fine, sir. And they did just that. They stuck these artillery weapons onto some tracks, by the looks of it. And there is actually mention of one in my sort of roster of guns, and it's abbreviated as the PZJG1 brackets SP 4 asterisks. And the asterisks correlate to a little point later on that says it is a German Panzer I tank chassis with the Czech 47mm gun mounted. So we had a look, we found some pictures of that. I can't find where I can actually use that in the game, so I think that's an example of it mentioned. but doesn't actually practically play into it. But it's essentially this artillery weapon stuck on some tracks that can then plow through the sand. So it's a strange cobbled together mess. So the Rommel Thunnies do seem to be mostly that. I can't find any other examples of it, but yes, it does seem like these prototypes are in the game. Don't know if I ever get to play with them. Don't know if they will affect the outcome of the war, but hey, we'll find out, I suppose.
Yeah.
So again, interesting to see how that plays out. And you've also then went on to ask again about the vehicles in a broader sense. Can you field modify tanks? Can you do anything out in the field? You can. And it does abstract it to an extent because, as you've mentioned, the game is very detailed, but it does give us a bit of a saving grace. So there's two ways it approaches it. You've got broken down vehicles, which is where the breakdown rating of a vehicle, depending on the terrain it's went through, just stops it and it breaks down. Sand and everything clogs it up.
That's from movement.
It is. It's from movement. It's from wear and tear, essentially.
And if you're going through wadis or basically if you're going through bad terrain, the brake rating gets higher.
Exactly. It adds up. It adds up and stacks every op stage, and then you do a roll at the end of each op stage to determine if that vehicle breaks down. And yes, you do have to do that for every single thing that is motorized. Every tow point of trucks, of tanks, guns, anything that moves around and is motorized, you have to see if it breaks down.
That also includes trucks for the logistical layer.
All the ones with, all the trucks and convoys that are moving all of your stuff around. So these trucks, everything, they can break down. And if they break down, they can be repaired out in the field.
Yes.
Repairing them, it requires a bit of fuel. So one point of fuel. You can repair them and then get them back up and running. They don't need to be yours. You can repair the other teams. It doesn't matter what nationality they are. You can repair someone else's stuff. It's yours. You get it to work as it is. It doesn't sort of magically switch, which some games I imagine would do. It actually maintains all of its characteristics. So you fix a Panzer, you get a Panzer.
Yes.
I fix a Churchill, I get a Churchill. It works slightly differently, though, if it's destroyed.
Yes. Then you have to take it to a repair facility.
Yeah.
So towing things as part of this game.
And not to be confused with tow points.
No.
Towing, as in to traditionally tow something.
Yeah. So if your vehicle breaks down, you put a vehicle breakdown marker like on the map, and then same as breakdowns, you can repair the other person's stuff if you take it, and that requires some stores and some fuel, and you have to take them to a facility.
Yes, which could be a very long way away, depending on where that happens.
Although I get free, I can't remember, mobile field repair things. Basically, they act as repair things, but they move.
Yes.
And you get one, I think.
I get one, and I don't get it for a while.
Yes.
I think mine's German.
Yes,
so I don't get it for a long time.
I think it can't repair Italian stuff. Whether that's a technical limitation of the squad or the Germans going,
or some sort of prejudice.
I'm not wasting time fixing an Italian
These
tank.
terrible pieces of equipment. So yeah, it does abstract it slightly, thankfully. But when it comes to field repairs, it is possible. The alternative is if we lose so say you've got a battalion with 5 tow points of Panzers. So that's, say, 40 Panzer tanks. And you lose a tow point through battle or attrition or breakdown. What you can then do is train a replacement point or ship one over from Sicily, it would be for me. And then you can have that replacement point travel down to meet that unit, and it sort of stocks back up that tow point.
Yeah.
You essentially have some fresh tanks.
And then you couldn't then repair the other one to go above your limit. There are limits on each unit of how many tow strength they can max out on.
So at that
you
point,
can't fill one battalion with like 100 tanks, 100 tow points.
Interesting thing I will have to check though is whether or not that would affect if you can repair it, because I'm not sure if that's how many can be in the desert itself or how many in the game.
Unit, it's like how capable of commanding they are.
Oh, sorry,
so
for the specific
not,
group, yes.
Physically limited.
For the group, yes, that's
this right. X amount of Panzers are allowed ever. It's more, as and when you come across them, you can repair them and steal them.
But yes, that's I think covers off those questions, and the feedback that you've mentioned. Very valid and
Thank you very
much something we'll be acting on. So thank you very much for that, Alexander. That is brilliant. And anyone else who has any questions, feel free to fire them over. Correspondence ticked off. What a little bit of correspondence that was.
Yeah, thanks,
cool from
Alexander.
Cool from to send it over like a telegram as well with that cool sound effect.
Well, he's getting into the theme.
Yeah. Everyone knows to send it over with a sound effect, obviously. Otherwise, how will we know that it's come through?
I wonder if you can still get telegrams. Can you still...
Can I?
Is that a service you can still get?
We should try.
Can I send a telegram to, a Western Union for someone to, pick up?
We should set up a telegram if possible. Then people can get in touch with us via telegram.
Yeah, we only receive correspondence from forms of communication that were, active at the time.
We'll take pigeon.
Oh, yeah.
I'll absolutely take a pigeon.
If a pigeon delivers a message, that's amazing.
If a pigeon delivers the message, we'll send you the game via pigeon.
Piece by piece.
It will take a long time, but you will get it. And it will be, I imagine, just absolutely riddled with bird shit. And pigeons, I don't know what they eat, but it comes out nasty.
Yeah. Well, that's why I wanted cats to kill them.
Yeah, but I think that's a loaded as well. I think you've got other motivation. And I'm not entirely sure what the motivation is, but you've got suspicious plans.
I mean, always.
I don't trust you at all. Part of why I'm doing this with you for the next 8 years. It's to
keep your enemies close.
Exactly. I need to keep an eye on you at all times. I need to keep you busy with magnets and stuff. Magnets are coming along great, by the way.
Yeah, they're all done.
Everything is working. I've got the board right next to me here. All of the maps are stacked up right behind me, and everything's vertical. And it's still standing up.
Yeah, I was expecting them to slowly slide over the week, but no. It seems we've just got a solution.
Everything's just working perfectly. It's all going great. It's all going fantastic.
So, do you want me to ruin your mood?
Oh, what a beautiful promise you've presented here. I'd be remiss to say no, so by all means, ruin my day.
Yeah, I've prepared a little dossier on Graziani, who this offensive is named after.
Right, my guy.
I do not like this man.
Oh,
This is
heavens.
a shockingly bad man, and I'm surprised we've not learned about him.
So this is Graziani, the figurehead of the offensive that we're playing the mini scenario for.
Yes.
So this is the guy in charge of the Italian forces during this first segment of the campaign.
Yes, this is Rodolfo Graziani, the hyena of Tripoli, the butcher of Libya, the butcher of Arabs, the butcher of Addis Ababa, the capital of Ethiopia, and also the butcher of Ethiopia.
Sorry, so this man has butcher in, was that 4 of his nicknames?
Yes,
One of them-
he has two butchers that are city specific, 2 that are countries, and 1 that's an ethnic group.
Brilliant. That's what you want to hear from a leader, a general.
Yeah, here's a fun quote to set a tone about the man.
Fun quote, okay.
Yeah.
You've promised fun,
Yeah.
so let's see what that manifests as.
An enemy forgiven is more dangerous than 1,000 foes.
Right,
Just to give
okay.
you this guy's attitude.
Quite mean-spirited.
Yeah.
Right, okay, so this is the man that I'm now going to be living in the perspective. So his shoes, whatever decision I make, I need to be better than him, I suppose, both morally and logistically, because they lost, historically.
We're
Spoilers.
going to get to this, but this guy, if you're worse than this guy morally, Jesus Christ, that's so bad. So he's born in 1882 in Filentiano, a small town in Italy.
Okay.
The 4th of 9 brothers. His father's the village doctor.
Okay.
This is the 1880s, though, so he's not like...
Hippocratic oath, but
He's giving
maybe...
people, opium for coughs and stuff. I think germ theory's being invented, but it won't be, your village doctor's aware of it at this time.
So we're a little bit better than drill a hole in the head for a headache.
No, it's give them drugs that are now illegal for a headache.
But that's better than drill a hole in the head.
Oh,
it's now you're tripping balls.
Medicine is progressing.
And you're on
Yeah.
meth, maybe, but I guess better than a
Yeah.
hole in the head. Okay.
And he always wanted to go to the military.
Okay.
Which I just found this bit interesting.
As the child of a doctor, that's interesting.
Yeah, this is just something very interesting about the time I found. He wanted to go to military school, but his father was too poor to support him going to military school. So he went to university to become a lawyer, which is just like a weird flip of now.
Yeah.
Like, his
doctor
dad has one
couldn't
of the
afford
most
it.
prestigious jobs, and it was like, you can't join the military, go be a lawyer?
Yeah, that's a very strange thing. If I told you that now, I was like, oh yeah, my child wants to become someone serving in the military.
Yeah.
I'm too poor. I'm just a doctor. I'm just a surgeon.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to become a solicitor instead. Fine, Dad. Whatever.
Yeah.
I'll not go to war. I guess I'll work in the courts. That's a strange switch of dynamic.
Yeah. So he goes to law school where he joins the military reserves.
Oh, okay. He's found a back door.
Yeah. And 3 years later, he gets called up to the military and passes this, like, officer's exam. Like, 300 people take it, like, 30 pass. He's, like, the top of his class. This guy sucks, but he seems to be smart and competent, which is why he's able to do all this horrible stuff.
Historically, the worst kind of bad person. Someone who's intelligent and uses that intelligence to do nasty things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he graduates that as a lieutenant and gets sent to Italian Eritrea, which is Italian-occupied Eritrea at the time, which is just north of Ethiopia.
Right, okay. So he's always had his eyes set on Africa.
This guy thrives on doing bad things in Africa.
Brilliant.
While he's there, he contracts malaria,
Okay.
learns Arabic and Tigriani, the local language.
Well, on the upside, his dad's a doctor, so the malaria thing you'll be fine with. And he's
Yeah.
also practicing solicitor by the sounds of it, so different languages, that sounds like it's going to help.
Yeah. In 1911, he's been there for like 2-3 years.
Okay,
He gets
okay.
bitten by a snake and almost dies.
So this man is already suffering mythological ailments from Greek mythology.
This guy has malaria and a snake bite that made him miss the Italo-Turkish War, which lasted a year.
Oh, convenient.
He just
convenient.
missed the whole thing.
Oh,
But he does then get transferred to northern Italy, where they're fighting the Austro-Hungarians and the Germans. This is all like colonial, pre-war, World War One time.
yeah.
There he gets wounded twice. One of them is gas. He survives both.
So this man, I mean, I'll credit to him, he survived a lot of dangerous situations.
Surviving things he shouldn't is a theme in this man's life.
So snake bite, I suppose it depends on the snake. Gas.
He was incapacitated for a year, so it's a bad snake bite.
World War One era gas as well. You're looking at sort of mustard gas.
Yeah.
It's not the sort of thing that doesn't leave permanent disfigurement of the internal organs.
This guy, yeah. But he does excel. He gets several cited for martial skill and bravery.
Oh dear.
And he leaves this conflict as the youngest colonel in the Italian Royal Army.
Right, okay.
He's 36. This is a mixture of he's good at war to a certain extent, and everyone above him's dying, because this is World War One.
Yeah.
So it's sort of all the officers are dying, and he's fairly good, so he's coming up.
He's shooting right up to
Yeah.
the top.
But that gets, when the conflict ends, he comes back to Italy, and he's expecting to just shoot up the ranks now. Like, the sky's the limit. But it's between World War One and World War Two, so the Communist Party want to assassinate him.
I don't know what you're about to say, but I have a funny suspicion that it's going to be the case that there's an assassination attempt and he survives.
It's sillier.
Is it a second snake?
No. He comes back home and he leaves the army temporarily, so he's less of a target.
Okay.
And he travels to Parma, famous for its ham,
Right.
and sets up a business importing Far Eastern goods. I never found any more details of what that was, but the business fails.
Well, yeah, because he's got such a broad market.
Yeah.
It's just Far Eastern goods. That could be anything Far Eastern.
Yeah. So the business fails, and as you do at this time, if you're a failure, he joins the fascist party.
Ooh, a very pointed remark about the fascists.
Yeah, I don't think I've hidden my disdain.
Good.
Yeah. So he joins the fascists fairly early. They haven't taken over Italy at this point. It's still a kingdom, but they're like a massive political movement.
Yeah.
The fascists take over, I think, 1922, maybe?
Sounds right from my preliminary
Maybe
knowledge.
around there, yeah. 1922, October 29th. That's the March on Rome, and the king sort of makes Mussolini the dictator.
Yeah,
so he doesn't get killed, basically. And then, so this is where things get awful.
They were already quite bad.
He gets sent back to Africa now. But this time he's as the viceroy of an area called Cyrenaica.
We've never been good with the pronunciation, but we will get there. Anyone knows how it's pronounced, please correct us.
It's sort of basically the eastern half of modern-day Libya.
Okay, which is a lot of where this takes place.
Yes.
So this is starting to add up.
Yeah, and this is sort of 12 years before. So this is the colonial era.
This was his stomping ground a long time before the North African campaign.
Yes. So he arrives in Libya, and this is the start of something called the Libyan genocide.
Brilliant. That's always a little suffix you want.
Yeah, and I'm shocked I didn't know about this beforehand as I was reading it. This is crazy. So he arrives, he carries out the forced migration and deportation of an entire region called Jebel al-Qadar, which is the Green Mountains. It's like a very lush mountainous region at the north.
Okay.
He deports 100,000 Bedouins, which is half the population of the region.
Okay, so he's Thanos to half of the region. He's got them moved out.
I think they would have liked to get snapped, because what ends up happening is the 100,000 people, which is mostly men, women, and children, because the men are rebel fighting. They're in camps in the desert and stuff.
Sorry, you said men, women, and children.
Oh, sorry, women, children, and the elderly.
Oh,
sorry.
From what I thought you meant, which is mostly everyone.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, so all of the...
Most of the men, from what I could tell, are out sort of in camps in the desert doing a guerrilla resistance, but it's home. He marches them 154 kilometers through the desert. Anyone who falls behind gets killed.
Great.
Yeah. And they end up in concentration camps around Benghazi.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah.
I see how this is starting to put together where my forces are during the game in that case.
Yeah. During this time, the Italian Air Force is performing gas attacks on the rebels in the desert.
Stellar work. That's, just war crimes then.
Yeah, and they're persecuting the local Senussi order, who is the local religious and political power. They're sort of both.
Oh, cool. Destabilizing both political and
He
religious
closes
stability.
the zawais and the mosques, forbids religious practices, confiscates lands. And on February 20th, 1931, so a year later, he destroys their last stronghold, the Kufra Oasis, and they perform a bombing and strafing campaign on innocents fleeing into the desert. So it's 1931. Half the population of this region is confined to 16 concentration camps.
Right, so this man he's waltzed in. He's decided that after surviving so many close brushes with death, the best thing to do with his time, with his military acumen, is to go into this region that he's sort of made his own. And
the Italians have taken this region because they've got the idea of rebuilding the Roman Empire, as it were.
Yes.
It's the reaching back to the glory days. So they sort of view the entire Mediterranean as their right to rule.
Which, from what I know, and this goes back to the guys that we had on in episode 3, the guys from the Pacific War channel, Echoes of War. What I'd found when I was listening to their podcast is that Mussolini's whole approach was rebuild the Roman Empire.
Yeah.
And that sort of cursed mindset is what ended up with the failed campaign for North Africa.
Yeah.
So, this is all coming together. This guy, Graziani, sounds like he definitely shared a lot of that belief.
He was a diehard fascist. He loved fascism.
Sounds like it, yeah.
He was an early joiner of the party and one of its prominent members the entire time.
A day oneer.
Yeah. These concentration camps in Libya, the Germans start visiting them. In particular, two notables, Himmler and Goering.
Oh, two of the lovely ones then.
Goering, who went on
Jesus.
to help design and run the first concentration camp, and Himmler, the head of the SS and the architect of the final solution, go to these concentration camps in Libya to take notes and are very impressed.
Oh, brilliant. So this was the progenitor for...
This is part of the inspiration
for what
the
happened.
Holocaust.
Oh,
They're
great.
going, you've killed this population you don't want in your country. How have you done it? Let's take notes.
So Graziani, what was his first name again, sorry?
Rodolfo.
So good old Rodolfo.
Yeah.
Hang on, that's just Adolf.
Yeah.
I think
mean,
with
history.
it's the same etymology.
Yeah.
So Rodolfo, right, okay, I see what's happened here. So this guy has essentially become the inspiration for the Holocaust.
Yeah, he's one of them where they're like, how do we do this as a practical?
So survives World War I era combat.
Yeah.
Is scorned because he couldn't follow the profession that he originally wanted to.
Yeah.
And then shows up in a different nation and then chastises them because of a fall from grace of a previous empire and wants to restore that empire.
Yeah.
Creates concentration camps and
Yes.
besets terror on minorities and tries to undermine political, religious, and social powers.
Yes.
So, yes, I can see why Himmler was like, let me take
Let's
note
see
of
how
that.
that's...
So,
yeah.
if anything,
this guy, among other
gate,
things, inspired the concentration camps.
wow, real piece of... You know what, this is going to... I know we've done a tongue-in-cheek before, the whole, I can't possibly, advocate for my side because they're evil. This is going to make that a lot more sincere because it really measures how awful this guy is. You're right, you have actually ruined my day a little bit. That's horrible.
After his success here, Mussolini goes, love this, go to Ethiopia. We want to handle that the same way. And this is they call Mussolini the Juice.
The Juice?
It's a combination of Dux, which was a Roman title, and Duke to be the Juice. They made a new title for him.
Okay.
This is a quote from Graziani as he's heading to Ethiopia. The Juice will have Ethiopia with or without the Ethiopians.
My God.
Yeah. So him and another guy show up in Ethiopia, pincering it. The other guy is much more successful. He takes the capital. He gets a lot more of the praise.
Yeah.
But he's still promoted to the Marshal of Italy at this point after they subjugate Ethiopia. And they're doing all of the same stuff. There's concentration camps, there's killings. It's the same. So during this point, he gets a tour of an Ethiopian Orthodox church. And at this point, he falls into a pit covered by an ornate carpet, a trap he believes set by the priests, but miraculously survives. So this is another near-death experience where he's fallen down a hole, covered in a rug. It's
So this
a
piece
cartoon.
So this piece of dirt is surviving Indiana Jones style hijinks
Yes.
and then going on to be an Indiana Jones villain.
Yes. And this guy, at this point, there's 5 instances where he should have died for the sake of the world and also just the odds. He's been gassed, he's been shot.
You know what? This is one of those horrible things where you take it into context and you just think about the domino effect of history. That if this guy died, you know what? Maybe it's early on in childhood and he gets some sort of ailment and his doctor father is trying some sort of early, late 1800s surgery and he just dies.
Yeah.
And the inspiration for the concentration camps as we knew them in the Holocaust may not manifest.
Yeah.
That domino, or if that snake was just a little bit better
Yeah.
at being a snake, then
so much.
So much
Like,
suffering
I
might have
think
been
it
averted in the way it
probably
happened.
would have happened because it's like an outcome
Yeah.
of the regime, but also like the implementation and like hundreds of thousands of people wouldn't have happened. So he falls through the carpet in a church, but somehow survives. And then later on, they're having this like we won like ceremony on stage in the capital of Ethiopia. Two Ethiopians, they're Eritreans who moved to Ethiopia and then didn't get the opportunities and are against the like occupation. They approach the stage during this. They throw 10 grenades at him. He has 365 fragments in his body.
Okay.
He is taken to hospital where he miraculously survives.
So he's also got Iron Man's origin story.
Yes, this guy won't fucking die because hell is like, we don't want you. You're too evil. I don't know what's going on.
Well, I mean, if the adage "the good die young" is true,
I guess, yeah.
then this guy, I take it he lived to be 170 because he's a real piece of shit.
We'll get to, he lived longer than he should have. So he gets blown up. His second in command is this guy called Guido Cortez. On stage, immediately, he just pulls out a gun and starts shooting the Ethiopian dignitaries on stage with him, who aren't involved in the attack.
Oh, fucking hell.
Graziani's in hospital, and he gives, and Cortez gives this order. Comrades, today is the day we show our devotion to our viceroy by reacting and destroying the Ethiopians for 3 days. For 3 days, I give you carte blanche to destroy and kill and do what you want with the Ethiopians. So it's just a 3-day, like,
It's the purge.
frenzy of Italian troops. Like, it's the purge.
But one side's an army and one side are civilians.
Yeah, and and there's various numbers, but Ethiopian sources who I'm more inclined to believe than the other sources are like French and English, like news reporters.
So
and stuff.
historically, it might be slightly
But
watered
they're
down at the very least.
covering up a bunch of their own colonial crimes. So I think a lot of them.
Yeah.
But the Ethiopians estimate 30,000 people are killed in the next 3 days.
God.
Modern analysis suggests it's 19,200, which is 20% of the population.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Over 3 days.
Yes. And also, a lot of people who aren't killed are sent off to more concentration camps. Yeah.
I think, well,
Just one more.
okay.
I'll get up to World War II. There's a bit more, and then we'll stop with him.
Okay, because this is just horrible
Yeah.
information to dump.
Yeah. You know the hole he fell through?
Yeah.
Well, that gave him a lifelong suspicion of the Ethiopian Orthodox clergy, which helped convince him because of tangential evidence that the monks were complicit in the attack on him.
Okay.
So he gives the order, I therefore execute summarily all monks without distinction, including the vice prior. On the feast day of this religion, they go in and kill 1,500 to 2,000 people at this. For these actions, he gains the title the Butcher of Ethiopia.
Yeah, I
And
see why that came.
Mussolini's very impressed and pulls him back to Europe in June for the start of the 1940 for the start of the Second World War. So we'll run it up to there for his pre-World War II life. But this guy is such a big piece of shit.
You know what? The thing is, when you said, I'm going to ruin your day, I expected some, like, deplorable stuff because, you know, a fascist leader during this period. What does really shock me, though, is the level of deplorability, but also the fact that this conflict was coined the War Without Hate, and the fact that this guy was a figurehead in that conflict, and the North African campaign is considered one of the gentler aspects of World War II, and this guy was fucking wandering around in charge.
If this guy
bewilders
had
me.
been successful,
Thank God
if
this
the
guy
British hadn't,
lost.
beat him in Operation Compass, it would have been, I mean,
Yeah, it
And
doesn't really bear thinking
Yeah.
about what that would have looked like if he managed to take a stronghold
Yeah.
in North Africa during that period.
So-
That's insane.
So he loves war crimes and subjugating populations, and he won't die. Like, falling through holes, 365 grenade fragments in him from a grenade that went off next to him.
Just walks
just
it off.
keeps going.
Well, goes to hospital, but yeah, that
Like, he just won't die. And yeah, this is the guy the Italians put in charge of their operations in North Africa at the start of World War II.
if you want a smart, brutal leader, you've got one. But fuck me, that is deplorable.
Yeah.
that is absolutely horrible. But well, thank you. I mean, it's well researched, so nicely done. It's some real history I did not expect to get today, and kind of sorry that I did.
Yeah.
But I mean, it gives some real interesting
Yeah.
context on who it is that I'm sitting in the shoes of.
Yeah, because I
for
thought
this.
I'd do a bit of research on him, but then just the more I read, I was like, and there's some horrific quotes I left out there for time.
Well, I'm sure we can get into that at some point,
Yeah.
because we'll have so many more episodes that we record which are going to be on the back of a lot of admin heavy stuff like today, and we'll keep on filling in these days where this is the case with stuff like this, because ultimately us talking about the fact that we've done nothing, we've already done that like 10
Yeah.
times. I think filling it in with something a bit more meaningful,
Yeah.
probably worthwhile, even if it does mean learning about something pretty horrible.
Yeah.
But hey, we may as well give some context to what we're doing here. It's a board game, but God, some horrible stuff happened behind the real stuff.
Yeah.
But I guess, yeah, thanks for that, and we'll get on to something different. What a nasty man.
Yeah.
Not you. Well, actually, that's yet to be
For
seen.
telling you.
Yeah, maybe in the game things will. Well, I mean, they can't get worse than that. But maybe from my personal perspective, in the realms of a board game, maybe you'll be worse. I hope you're the worst one in the board game.
I mean, yeah.
I don't want to be the worst one in the board game.
Yeah.
I feel like now I'm going to play nice to overcompensate for the fact that I'm playing in the role of such a nasty man.
He just wouldn't die, and his story doesn't get less infuriating. I'll tell you the rest.
Yeah,
World War II and after next.
Well,
week.
I'll not look into him. I'll make sure that I get the information
Yeah.
direct from you, so I can wax about how nasty it is here. Because, goodness me! But I suppose the only way we can get past this now is with a way to bridge the gap between nice and nasty, and between you and I, and maybe find some common ground. And now for something nicer. A little oasis in the war. It's time for some common ground. I'm trying the intro for common ground. I'm recording. Maybe.
Yeah.
So
it's me.
it's your common ground this week. So what have you brought for me that isn't something nasty about the board game and history?
I think we should be doing way more stuff underground.
Okay, so when you say underground, I'm taking that to mean you don't mean sort of indie culture. Not many people have
this
heard
is
of it.
the earth.
You're talking about depth of You're
Yeah.
talking about burrowing.
In a lot of ways.
Okay. Let's hear it.
Residentially in England, I don't get why basements aren't a thing. It's just an extra room for free, like land-wise.
When you say for free, I don't know what you mean by for free.
Well, it's the same footprint, so you get an extra story.
But what about the pipes?
That's fine.
The pipes and the tubes and the wires?
You just put them down.
Put them further down.
Yeah.
But then you need to. That's a lot more wire and pipe.
Yeah, well, homes have basements, I think.
You think? Your
extra
home doesn't
room.
have a basement.
No, I'd like it to. So, basements, and then also just more underground. I think intercity rail. Let's move that underground.
I mean, intercity rail. Oh, I'm sorry, intercity. No, we've got
Yeah.
you've got sort of metros. They tend to be underground,
Yeah.
but yeah, you don't get many intercity
Yeah.
underground. Okay, fair
Put
enough.
them in a tunnel, make it like a rail gun. Super fast, and like trees aren't going to fall on the track, so you can go really fast.
Yeah, but the thing is, they like that. They like it when trees when trees fall on the tracks. That's air quotes in the air, by the way. When trees fall on the track, when leaves fall on the tracks, when there's a slight gust of wind, that's a way for them to shut off all of the trains.
Yeah,
and
which
go,
they
we can't do that
if
today.
It's like deep underground.
Yeah, but they want to be able to do that.
Yeah, so take the option away.
But they're the ones doing it. They're in charge. They're big train.
Well, I'm pushing big train down underground.
They've tried that before.
Yeah. Vertical farming under cities.
Vertical farming.
Yeah, like hydroponic farming under cities.
So you're going very ideological and very...
Not ideological. I just think we should be moving more and more stuff underground so the surface can be really nice.
That sounds very ideological.
Like you put the cars underground, trains, all that stuff, factories, and then the surface...
Sorry, factory. Factories shouldn't be underground.
Depends on the type of factory.
Well, what are your thoughts on mines? Because mines weren't safe. Putting a factory underground sounds like a bad idea.
Well, mines weren't safe because of there weren't safety standards.
I mean, it's partially that.
Mining's inherently dangerous to a point. But it's also they were crawling to that coal-filled hole with a pickaxe.
Yeah, but also factories are they're still quite dangerous at the moment. Factories. If somebody said, do you want to work in an office for a factory? One of them is more dangerous. I would go, the factory is more dangerous. Yeah. And I'm willing to bet, and I haven't looked at the figures, willing to bet I'm right. I think if you take that underground, it becomes an exponential increase in danger. So you want to put factories underground?
Yeah, as much as possible as going underground.
So rattle off some stuff. So factories.
Basements. Factories. Hydroponic farms. Intercity rail.
Right.
You know those capsules, that... With
a time capsule?
No, it's the pipes, and you put the thing in it, and it goes off somewhere else.
Like the mail things.
Yeah, that, but instead of that, your mailbox is connected to the pipes that are all underground.
You want the post to be underground?
Yeah, so your post is just a guy in, sending the thing, just throws it in the
Can we
chute.
not just make that electronic? Can we not just do email?
No.
Why?
Oh, you can email, but this will deliver, stuff.
Sorry.
So you'll go on
deliveries.
Amazon and you'll be like, I want a monitor, and then a pneumatic tube will deliver it.
But what about the sky? Because they're doing that with drones and stuff.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like drones everywhere.
Okay, so you're anti-drone, you're more about the underground thing.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the sky's already open. You just need to sort of plan, you need to schedule it is the only thing.
Yeah.
Whereas underground, you have to make room, because there's all the ground in the way.
Yeah.
So that sounds a lot more expensive and a lot more time
jobs.
consuming. No, you're right. That is fair. But then you're bringing back mining, which we've just talked about, which is bad. Because there's going to be a whole era of mining coming back.
You don't have to do mining. You can use the things they use to make the Channel Tunnel and shake the tower in Ocean's 13.
I haven't seen Ocean's 13, but I imagine a big drill.
Yeah.
So you're talking about, it's kind of like fracking then, isn't it?
No, it's the opposite.
It's not the opposite of fracking. The opposite of... you know what? I can't actually articulate what the opposite of fracking is, but this is not the opposite of fracking, because fracking involves shaking the earth, and you've just said you want to shake the earth. So it's not the opposite. It's definitely close.
Okay.
So I'm not giving you that.
You're not on board with this?
I'm not on board with it. I just think you need to temper your expectations here, because what we're talking about here is a lot of mining, first and foremost, which we've established immediately as dangerous inherently. And so with this sort of first stage of clearing out the ground, you're going to have to build equipment in the factories, which are on the surface.
For now.
Yeah. So that means a lot of surface factories are going to be getting a lot of work.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have to get rid of all these workers afterwards.
No, they just move.
They relocate underground.
Well, no, the factory is actually closer because it's under the city rather than on the outskirts. So they go to an entrance to the subterranean and they take a lift down.
Like a little trap door.
Yeah, but fancy.
Fancy. Describe to me the fancy trapdoor that they're going through.
It's less of a trapdoor. You walk up and it's a big cylinder.
Okay, and so it's very sci-fi.
Yeah, and you step into it and then it's just a lift.
Sorry, sci-fi is not the word I'm looking for. Dystopian. It's very dystopian. So all of the working class people get into this tube and they go down into the ground.
For their shift, and then they come up to the surface for the rest of the time, and it's lovely and pristine. There's no cars ruining everything.
Sorry, there's no cars.
They're all underground.
How deep is... Okay, so yeah.
It's in layers.
Okay.
Which also means if global warming continues to get worse, we can retreat further and further underground.
Like mole people.
So we're getting ahead of the curve. We'll become Morlocks.
No, this is... So we're all going to be horrible... vault dwellers from Fallout, the Fallout game series. Is what we're doing. Yeah, you're looking pensive. I'm describing what you've told me. I'm just telling you what it is.
Well, the vaults had some other stuff going on I don't want to be associated with.
Oh, and that would never happen in the real world.
No, certainly
corporations...
not in my underground mega country city.
In whose?
My
Yours?
I guess, yeah, that was a bit of a Freudian slip.
It was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You're still on the cat train, on you, where you're in charge.
Yeah, I think most of my common grounds are going to be me presenting policy.
Yeah, it sounds like you're the man in charge in all of these. So, okay. I'm not inherently against it. I just, if you can, to get me on board, I'm going to need, what you said they're in layers. Yeah. I'm going to need the layers. Okay. So we've got drones in the sky. This is dwindling. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Then you've got houses and this pristine environment on the surface.
Yeah.
What's next? What's the first layer?
Basements.
Basements. Okay, yeah, you like basements.
Yeah. Inter-house pneumatic tubes.
Okay.
Streets for cars and stuff, like tunnels for cars.
Streets for cars and stuff.
Tunnels for cars and lorries and things.
Okay, so vehicles. So the roads become the next layer.
Yeah, they're down.
So you've got tubes and then you've got cars.
Yeah.
So at the moment, you're describing how it works currently with the drones. Drones are above the cars and lorries, and then you've got the cars and lorries.
Yeah.
What's below that?
Factories.
Factories, okay.
Yeah. That could be factories or farms.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
You want them right next to each other.
Well, they're just in caverns next to each other.
I see, yes. The smoke and all of the
well, you vent
pollution.
That.
Vent that where? Where do you vent that? To the pristine surface.
To the drones.
So the sky, because bearing in mind, as you said, this is directly below the city. So the city is going to be poisoned by all of the factories.
Well, we've got all we'll have some tunnels to take air away, and we'll let it out.
So you're gonna
somewhere else.
You're gonna trap the cities in a border of toxins.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Which is fine because the next layer, that's the deep roads.
What?
Intercity transport.
Okay, the deep roads.
That's, your underground trains.
Your
underground autobahns.
Your LNER. Yeah. Okay. And is that the bottom layer?
And then it's like secret stuff. Like the military and science.
So they're right below how people move from city to city.
Yeah.
And you're not worried they're going to do anything nefarious with that?
No.
Like nab people or interfere? And you don't think that there's any risk of every single layer above the deep roads delaying travel?
I mean, there's chances. For
right,
that.
Now we're back at the same problem. However, I am an advocate of trying something new. I'll try anything once. Approved.
Thank you very much.
I approve this.
We'll get the drills going.
We'll give it one go.
One go at moving on.
You get to pick
Civilization underground.
You get to pick one city, and we'll try it with that one. If it works, we'll see about some others. If it doesn't, fair enough. We can write off one city. So
okay,
that's not too bad.
Birmingham.
You didn't need a pick. I wasn't asking for the city.
Oh, okay.
But
edit that out.
It's an industrious city,
and it's mid-size.
It's quite big.
It's big enough that you can work out the issues.
It's pretty massive,
but it's not like London.
It's not London. It's not the capital.
Yeah, you don't want to start with the capital.
No, I agree, but it's still huge. Right. Well, it's a bold play. It's a bold play, but I suppose we've got to start somewhere, and by the same merit, Andy, we have to end somewhere. And I believe
let's end here.
We found some common ground. We found out some horrible facts about history.
Yes.
And before that, you told me about Graziani. And we've also answered some stellar questions presented, and we're welcoming some more. So anyone, more questions, fire them over, because when it comes to the admin heavy days, and there will be admin heavy days aplenty as we get through this, we'll need something to do. So fire them over.
Yeah.
Your questions, your quandaries, your queries, your concerns.
Any interesting like individuals or like events
Yeah,
around
anything
this time and yeah,
we can cover it. The email address, it's info@warwiththemate.co.uk. And it works. The email address works. We know that for a fact now. And you're listening. We're listening. We're speaking. And right now we're saying, fare thee well. Good night.
Stay subtle, humble, and brave.
And
we'll see you next week.
stay out of those tunnels. Because we don't know what Andy's got going on. But there's secrets down there. There's secrets. Good night.